In this week's episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Diamond is Unbreakable. The stand user of Red Hot Chili Pepper finally decides to reveal himself, and we also finally get to see the old senile Joestar. This week's episode of Diamond is Unbreakable is the first one to me that feels like a classic episode of JoJo. More in line with the stuff that we saw in Stardust Crusaders. We had an epic stand battle, we had a ridiculous over-the-top stand user villain, and it was all made perfect when we got the return of Joestar, who is absolutely senile. He doesn't even realize he's holding his cane half the time. This is a very different version of Joestar that we've ever seen, but it's still really good to see him, to hear his voice actor playing him in a completely different way. That being said, I think the real star of this week's episode has to be the Red Hot Chili Pepper stand user, Akira. He's this badass rocker who has big plans to take his guitar skills all over the world. But first, he's got to get rid of Joestar and Jotaro Kujo. Why? Who the fuck really knows? I'm sure he has some sort of weird ulterior motive, but honestly, I don't know why he wants to kill these guys. I don't know why they're so threatening, to be perfectly honest, but you're not going to have to think about that too much because it's just going to take away from the excuse of having a really kick-ass stand battle, which we get in this week's episode. That's right, Crazy Diamond versus Red Hot Chili Pepper on the docks of Morio City. And you know what? It's really exciting. What I love most about it is the fact that clearly Akira has planned all of this, because there are these little electrical vents which are all over the place, which allows not only him, but his Red Hot Chili Pepper to sort of teleport around, which gives him a big advantage against the Crazy Diamond. But of course, there is always that one moment of the episode where the main character comes up with something really clever, and that's exactly what Josuke does in this episode. As he's continuously punching the ground, all of this black coal tar starts to come up and cover these electrical vents. And this gives Koichi the opportunity to see where the Red Hot Chili Pepper is going to come from, because a little air bubble is going to start to pop up right before he appears. He tells him where he's going to be, and that's when Josuke gets right up in his face and just starts wailing all over him, and it's awesome! Not to be outdone, Akira and the Red Hot Chili Pepper have another plan where they're going to suck up all of the power from Morio. A plan which is sort of like a last-ditch effort on their part, because if they do this, they're not going to be able to have access to electricity for a short amount of time, at least in the city anyway. But it doesn't matter to him, because his plan is he's actually going to take this RC airplane, fly across the ocean, and actually land on the ship that Joestar is on, which I think is actually pretty damn clever. Even Jotaro realized he was going to do this, and it makes sense. It honestly does, in that weird sort of JoJo way, continuing to live up to the bizarre name. But this is what happens. He basically powers himself up. He gets so powered up that they can't even see him just from the giant amounts of electricity. But this is where this other plan comes in, because they always think a couple of steps ahead of each other. Josuke actually manages to trap the Red Hot Chili Pepper inside of a tire. Seeing as, of course, that it's made out of rubber, it's going to be able to insulate that electricity, but Red Hot Chili Pepper is still able to get out of there. But it's not really going to help him when he gets tossed into the ocean, where his whole body starts to melt, and it seemingly kills Akira right there. However, no, he is actually able to make it to the ship. Don't know how that happened, but he got there. I guess he just swam and got onto the boat. You could see that he tossed his wet clothes on the side. He switched suits with some other guard, and he moves in close to kill Joestar. And this is where I think the most poetic justice part of the episode comes into play, because Okuyasu actually ends up getting the final hit on Akira, because these two guards come in and they say, hey, there's this guy who's on board and he's getting ready to go after Joseph. And then Okuyasu's there and he's like, I don't know which one is the real bad guy. So he just decides to try and punch both of them, and luckily the first guy he hits ends up being the stand user of the Red Hot Chili Pepper. I love it, because Okuyasu actually did get his revenge, but he didn't have to go like full-on death. He didn't have to kill this guy. He got true justice by defeating his stand. Joestar is safe, and it leads to this surprisingly heartwarming scene where Josuke's really nervous to actually meet his father for the first time, and as he's getting off the boat, his cane breaks. Josuke grabs him and decides to hold on to his hand as they walk off into the sunset. Even Koichi is just having a complete, like, fanboy moment when he sees this, and he's so happy that this is the way that everything is wrapped up. Koichi's got a really good heart. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of Diamond is Unbreakable? Man, there were so many just great moments from this episode right here. The action scenes were really great. I loved the battle between the Red Hot Chili Pepper and the Crazy Diamond. I loved all of the fluidity from it. I loved the crazy attack sequences. I just loved how over the top everything is. Akira was also a really cool villain. We've never seen anybody like him before in the series. He even has some pretty damn good skills on the guitar, which is something that I really loved a lot. A lot of great big power chords, which were really kick-ass and really speaking a lot to this series, adding a lot more flavor to a show that's already incredibly distinctive. And then, of course, we have the return of Joestar. How can I not talk about this guy? He's just completely gone. Like, he's just an old, decrepit old man who can't remember anything anymore, and God bless him, he tries, but that's just how old he is at this point. You have to remember, in Stardust Crusaders, he was already an old man, so just to see him again is honestly pretty crazy, and I still love the fact that we've been able to see so many different versions of Joestar. Like, when he starred in his very own part of the series in the original JoJo anime, in the second half of the series, seeing him as an old man and now seeing him officially retired is just great. I was kind of hoping there would be a big moment between Jotaro and his grandfather, but no, this is more dedicated to Josuke actually meeting his father for the first time. He himself is also really nervous and never even really knew what to thought of actually having a father, which is a dynamic for the character, which I think is going to be really interesting. I cannot wait to see Joseph actually see Josuke's mother again. I think that's going to be a really funny moment. I can't wait to see how she's going to react to all of this. Just a lot of great moments in this episode. Lots of amazing action-packed action with that JoJo style that's definitely going to get you pumped up. Some new characters, some old characters. This is already a classic episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and you should definitely check it out if you've been following the series. I'm dropping a 5 out of 5 on this bad boy. Check it out, JoJo fans. You might see something you like. But if any of you did watch this week's episode, make sure to tell me what you thought about it in the comment section below. Did you have a favorite scene? Did you like this week's episode? Did you not like it? Please tell me in the comments section. Thank you guys for watching this review. I really appreciate it. If you would like to help support the channel, make sure to smash that like button, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys again for watching. And as always, stay dandy, baby!